In this video, I will show you the best change management practices for ERP implementation. My name is Obi Iradion, and over the last 18 years, I have successfully delivered organizational change management across Apple, HSBC, Cisco, and other organizations that included ERP implementation. Whenever we, as change practitioners, when we introduce new software like ERP, we are not simply installing a tool. What we are actually doing is changing how people perform their job. But the reality is this: 70% of ERP implementation fail. Why? Because people don't adopt the change, which is why today you will walk away with a proven organizational change management framework to help increase your success for ERP implementation within your organization. Here is the portfolio of best change management deliverables that you will want to deliver for rolling out ERP within an organization. I will go into details shortly, but at a high level, it involves conducting things like change assessments, of which there are multiple types of change assessments, which I will go over shortly. It also involves delivering communications, change strategies and plans, engaging with leaders, coaching, and training impacted users, and also tracking change successes. To increase your success, you will want to apply this four-phase change management framework that is based on best change practices for rolling out ERP. You want to start by assessing readiness for the ERP rollout, and then move into design and development, where you build the change strategy, your change plans, and also change assets for delivering change management for the ERP implementation. The third phase is where we implement the change deliverables and also track adoption. And finally, the final stage, we sustain and reinforce the change by embedding new behaviors into day-to-day operations. Let us quickly go over the change deliverables that are delivered when assessing your organization's readiness for change. You will want to start by assessing the current state, which involves assessing the culture, leadership style, and also capacity for change for the impacted departments. How? You want to interview representatives from impacted functions to learn about the culture of each impacted group, and also to identify how receptive they are to change in general. You will also want to review outcomes from past technology projects to see which one was successful and which one was not. You also want to identify subcultures. So, for example, field service teams, they often prefer short, mobile-friendly job aids. On the other hand, finance and sales teams, they prefer step-by-step guides. So you want to ensure that you identify subcultures within impacted groups. For your next deliverable, you want to conduct your change readiness assessments for the ERP implementation. Here is how you do that. One, you want to facilitate process flow walkthroughs with business analysts and also project teams to compare current state versus future state process maps. And when doing your current state versus future state analysis, you want to do that by job role or by department and group. For each department or group or job role, you will want to document the impact type as well as the severity of impact. Basically, is it low, mid, or high? You also want to build an impact heat map that shows where high severity changes are clustering. And as you take a look at my screen, what we are looking at here is a change impact assessment template. You also want to document the change management responses needed for each change. So, for example, what is needed for training? What is needed for communication? What is needed for training? You want to ensure that you document all of these. And then you want to socialize your assessments with managers and champions, if the champions are available at this point, to validate and refine severity and also timing. Here's a quick tip for you. You want to ensure that you have a separate consolidated view for executive sponsors that summarizes the ERP implementation impact by personas. Basically, take a look at what I have on my screen. This is an example of the summarized view you want to present to your leadership. Let's move on to the next assessment deliverable, which involves identifying risk and resistance. You want to know early whether resistance exists, as well as proactively identifying where resistance might come from. How do you do this? You want to conduct a structured risk identification workshop with SMEs, subject matter experts, project teams, functional leads, or individuals with knowledge of each impacted group. You also want to classify resistance by category, stakeholder type, resistance level, ability to impact the ERP implementation. And then you also want to include a mitigation task, who's going to be responsible for mitigating that resistance, and the date. Basically, what I am currently sharing on my screen is an example of a resistance management template that you will want to utilize for your purpose. The next deliverable is to map stakeholders and champions for the ERP implementation. A stakeholder map ensures coverage and helps you target effort where influence is greatest. It also allows you to know which key stakeholders have a high or low ability to impact your project and compares that with their level of interest. So on my screen, we are taking a look at a stakeholder mapping template that includes sample stakeholders, their level of interest, their ability to impact, as well as other information. These are the types of information you want to map when mapping stakeholders for your ERP implementation. You will also want to conduct enablement needs assessments for your ERP implementation. Why do you want to do this? Because different personas and departments learn and adopt differently. An enablement assessment ensures that you are understanding how your targeted audience prefer to receive communications, how they prefer to receive training, how they want to be engaged. The sales department, for example, might prefer more detailed communications. They might prefer high level engagement sessions. The engineering department might prefer a different type of style. So you want to ensure you are gathering all of these pieces of information. To support your overall readiness assessment, you want to deliver a readiness survey and also conduct interviews. Why do you want to do this? Because readiness data helps you prioritize. It also includes the baseline for your adoption matrix for the ERP implementation. By having a baseline adoption level, when later, after rolling out the ERP, you perform additional adoption assessments, you will be able to compare those assessment levels versus the baseline. Basically, your survey should be measuring level of awareness, receptiveness to the ERP implementation, knowledge, proficiency, and more. So those are the 6 main change management deliverables that are part of phase 1 for assessing organizational change readiness for an ERP implementation. Let us now move on to the change management deliverables that are part of phase 2. Phase 2 is the design and develop phase for rolling out an ERP implementation. There are 9 key deliverables you want to keep in mind. Here is the first one. The first one is to develop your targeted change management strategies for your ERP rollout. That involves strategies for rolling out communications, your strategies for establishing and managing change champions, your strategy for developing and implementing training, managing resistance, engaging impacted users, your strategy for enabling leaders as well as for go live and also post go live. So your strategy basically involves how you will be implementing your change management deliverables. The next deliverable, which is putting together the change management plans, is where you go into step by step on delivering your change management activities. So, for example, you want to include a change impact and readiness plan that talks about how you will get impacted groups ready for go live. You will also want to develop the change management communication plan, as well as the plan for engaging with stakeholders and impacted users. You also want to develop the step-by-step plan for engaging with sponsors, for delivering training, for managing resistance, and also for tracking adoption. In addition, you also want to develop the plan for your change champion network, as well as the plan for sustaining the change. You also want to develop a change roadmap that sequences communication, training, and reinforcement activities so that everything is happening at the right time and with the right audience focus. Now, as you know, effective communication drives clarity and trust. And so you will want to design messaging that explains the why, the when, the who, and the what, and also communication that aligns leaders and guides employees from awareness all the way to adoption. You want to use channels that your teams already rely on. So basically, you want to draft newsletters, you want to draft awareness communications, you want to draft get ready, countdown types of communications. You also want to draft tips and tricks that provides quick sound bites on how people can do things with the new solution. You also want to draft invites as well as drafting other messaging channels. Another very popular deliverable and also successful one is you want to deliver a change enablement site or a learning resources website. When I do change management for a wide range of organizations, I normally use SharePoint to create the change management site. This website should house all of your learning assets so that users can self-serve and stay current. And if you already have a site set up already, that's great. Just ensure you keep it updated with communications, with resources, with guides, with videos, and other resources to help people learn and also build proficiency. For the next section, you want to deliver this one here is a critical deliverable, which involves the change champion onboarding and engagement materials. So in preparation for launching your change champion network, you want to create a kickoff deck for onboarding your champions. You want to create a champion toolkit That includes FAQs, elevator speech, uh, demo scripts, and also other informations that can help the champions to communicate the ERP implementation change. You also want to create a channel that can be using Teams, using Zoom, but it's going to be a collaborative channel for the champions that will be supporting your ERP implementation. Some organizations use Slack. So if your organization uses Slack, then you want to create the champion channel on Slack. Another common deliverable you should develop involves leadership engagement and immersion materials. This involves a leadership engagement guide that introduces leaders to the ERP program's vision, value, and impact on business outcomes. You also want to put together a day in the life use case for the ERP implementation. Basically, this day in the life uses a leadership uh, uh, use cases, and it helps walk them through how the ERP benefits them and helps improve their productivity on a day by day basis. You also want to put together a leader action roadmap for the ERP implementation that lets leaders know when they are needed the most, where they are needed, as well as key events that you need leaders to participate or support. You also want to put together a leadership playbook that includes talking points, communications you would like leaders to cascade, as well as other pieces of information. And that brings us to the third phase. Phase three is the execution phase. This is where you implement and you manage your change deliverables for the ERP implementation. The priority is to prepare, equip, and support people so usage becomes a habit. Okay? Now, it is during this phase that you officially launch the Change Champion network for the ERP rollout. Activating champions really goes a long way in helping to reduce resistance and also support adoption at the grassroots level. We recommend hosting a kickoff session with the champions where you provide them with the roles and responsibilities. You tell them a little bit more about the program. You discuss with them the key areas where you need their help. You let them know how you will support them. This is very, very important for you to mention how you plan to support the champions. Okay? During this implement phase is when you will also roll out your detailed communication plan. Uh, your aim is to be consistent, transparent, and also make sure you use a targeted and personalized approach for your communications. One size does not fit all. When doing change management for an ERP implementation, you want to ensure that you customize your communications. Something else for you to deliver is hands-on training and enablement, as well as providing training resources to the users that will be impacted by the ERP implementation. Make sure you leverage a multi-pronged approach to training that involves virtual sessions, workshops, town halls, group sessions, train the trainer, as well as office hours. You can do remote sessions, but you should be open to accommodate any in-person delivery requests. Next thing for us to discuss is leadership enablement. So leaders accelerate adoption when they are personally confident and excited about the change. If mid and senior leaders are not excited, if they are not bought into the ERP implementation, then you have a problem. And so it is important that you support leaders with fast, focused, and relevant enablement and coaching to help them fulfill their roles as communicators, advocates, liaisons, coaches, and resistance managers. These five roles are the key roles that leaders and managers have to play during a time of change. When I deliver organizational change management for clients for ERP implementation, I use a white glove leadership and sponsor enablement approach. And I recommend that you do the same thing. This white glove approach involves conducting one on one sessions with leaders or group sessions. So, for example, you can invite uh, an SVP or a VP or senior director to a session, and you can tell them they can invite their own direct reports to the sessions. And then during that session, you want to provide information to the executives about what the changes are about, how it benefits their organization, and also use a day in the life use cases to help the leaders understand and connect the ERP implementation to their own personas. And here is an illustration of a day in the life of an executive. Obviously, when putting together this slide, you want to do some research to identify the executive's regular day-to-day activities. And then you want to present how the new ERP will help the leader. So, for example, when I conduct these white glove sessions and I am walking leaders through this day in the life, I normally use this deck, this slide here, where I tell the leader, based on my understanding, around 8 o'clock, here are the activities that you do, and here is how the ERP will help support you. And then I click to build the next section of the slide where I say, okay, around 9:30, here are the things that I understand you do, and here is how the new ERP can help. And then I click once, and then I build, and I say, okay, around 11 o'clock, here is what you normally do, and here is how the ERP will help. And then I continue building the slide and walking the leader through this day in the life all the way from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. to really allow the leader to get the changes from their own perspective. You also want to ensure that you are managing resistance, right? So during the assess stage, you assessed any existing levels of resistance, which you documented, which you will be documenting. And you also proactively identified where resistance might come up. And then you identified who is going to be responsible for mitigating that. So basically, during the implement phase, you want to implement your resistance management plans. The next thing is to ensure that you are tracking adoption for the ERP implementation. So, for example, track how many people are signing on and using the ERP. Also, track FAQs, engagement, and interaction during sessions. Track feedback sentiment, as well as collaboration metrics. You want to define usage metrics by role or by department. That way, you can better determine whether impacted groups are reaching your threshold for successful adoption. Next, let us go over the organizational change management activities for the final phase, which is phase 4. And I will quickly go over this. If you are interested, we have, and I will include the link, there is a detailed guide that walks you through step by step and more everything that I am talking about today. I will include the link at the bottom of this video. Okay, so for phase 4, you want to reinforce the changes. First, make sure you are maintaining the change network as well as gathering and responding to feedback. Continue to do office hours and support. Make sure you continue to measure adoption, right? Send out surveys or during meetings or during sessions, ask people to respond to surveys in real time. A lot of organizations suffer from survey fatigue, most likely also including your organization. And so A workaround is when discussing with people, just ask them to complete a survey in real time. Make sure you are capturing and integrating lessons learned, as well as continuing to recognize people and also reinforcing this new behavior. Let us quickly go over the methodology. We talked about using a 4-phase methodology, and here on this screen is an overview of the end-to-end methodology that I just went over. So this slide literally lists out all of the different deliverables by stage, and based on my many years of doing change management for ERP implementations, I've also included a rough timeline that you also can leverage for each of the different phases. So, for example, your change readiness assessment phase can go all the way from 4 to 8 weeks, depending on a couple of factors. One, number of impacted individuals. Two, the severity and the complexity of the change. Three, the number of in-flight projects that are happening in parallel to the ERP implementation. Take all of this into consideration to determine for your readiness assessment, should it be 2 weeks or 4 or 6 or 8? Okay. And here we have a table view versus this other view that is more a timeline view. So you can pause this video and take a screenshot of this, or you can click on the link to go to the detailed guide, and you will see this on that page. And if you have any questions, or if you need a top change management consultant to help you, don't hesitate to reach out to me. See the link below. And don't forget to like this video, as that lets me know that you have received value from it. You can also subscribe to the channel so you don't miss great content like this one.